Good times.
Yeah,
I'll do. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I got that new controller. Like, I'm gonna get the what is the Edge? I think is what they're calling it, the Sony Edge
Hmm.
controller. I think they said it looks like it's gonna be like the first quarter of the year or something like that sometime. But um, we'll see. I'm excited about it, but is what
Yeah.
it is.
Um, if you don't mind, I'll read the. Well, I'll do the materials and destinations and stuff, so that way you can handle like the weapons and stuff.
It's good, man. We're live.
Awesome.
We're live with episode 27 of the Speaker Podcast. It's we were away last week. Yes,
Hmm.
we Sam had
Anniversary.
some lady time.
Hmm.
Take care of that wife. You know,
6 years.
do that's awesome. By the way,
Hmm.
take care of his husband duties. So that's awesome. Good for you. I'm glad.
Yep.
Myself, last week was our last baseball game. For the kids, they were going to do the tournament, but we said screw the tournament. We're not letting them do the tournament this year. We're just going to get them ready for spring league. But
There you
so
go.
so we they played their last games last Saturday, and I didn't get home until like way late until after the podcast was going to start. And then I was trying to coordinate with Sam about maybe doing it on Monday. I think it was just a little late to get that
Yeah.
figured out, but that's fine.
It
Last week
was
was
gone all weekend.
yeah. Last week was a good twab. This week is also a good twab, arguably a better twab.
Hmm.
Some nice little deets in there, and then we finally have a look at our new Halloween ornaments in action. And there is, of course, as always, controversy.
Everyone can shut up. The warlock has a good looking helmet finally.
Here's the thing about it. Look, everybody voted on these, and this is exactly what they sold us on. So I don't know what the arguments are. This is what the people voted for.
Well, so the numbers were very close compared to last year's.
Oh God, yeah, last year's
with
was
the
a
monsters
blowout.
and dinos. Yeah, the dinosaurs won candidly versus the monsters,
Yep.
and this year was very close. I feel like that's probably why
Yeah.
there was a bit more controversy over it. But I mean, I'm happy. Honestly, the Warlock helmet looks like one of the futuristic Batman helmets. I'm very excited about that.
Yep.
Plus, it's solid looking mech armor.
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone else, but
This
we don't
is
get many armor pieces. It's always robes.
this is one of those rare times where like hunters usually have some good looking digs, like almost always, and this is one of those rare times where they get blown out by the other two, and it's because of symmetry.
Yeah.
It's just because of symmetry. My God, if we could just get some symmetry, I would be happy.
Yeah,
But
it's definitely more eye appealing for symmetry. Yeah.
yeah, but I dig it. I like it. I like the Titan one is cool. I don't like the visor on the helmet. I wish but the Titans, they've already got it made. If you have the Dido helmet from the Prophecy Dungeon, just slap it on there. Good to go.
Yeah.
Good to go. You are mecha ready. And then yes, the Warlock helmet looks sick,
Looking
nasty.
fresh.
So does the chest piece. The chest piece looks great.
Oh
so.
yeah. I'm very excited.
Here. Why don't I scroll on down? We can get a good look right here. There we go. An even better look. Yeah. Doing our best Ginyu Force poses. Yeah. So that's good.
It's exciting. Yeah.
That's the opening. The opening of the TWAB is just talking about the ornaments here, which we'll be getting a week from. Well, not Tuesday. We'll get them Tuesday at reset.
Yeah, we're getting everything Tuesday,
very
which I'm
cool.
excited for.
Yep.
I do wish that they would give like more information before the launch of stuff, because here's what happens for all these holiday events. It launches on Tuesday, and they don't talk about it in the TWAB until Thursday. And by then, everyone's already gone in and started doing stuff and had to figure it out for themselves.
Yeah.
So it's a wasted TWAB of, hey, Guardians, this is how things get done and during this holiday event or whatever we're doing. It's like, come on, man, we knew. We had to figure this out in the last 2 days, but whatever. But yeah, I am looking forward to this one. I like the changes they made from years past. Like this last Halloween event was actually pretty fun.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be good. Plus, we got a lot of new people who have never experienced the Halloween event in our clan now, so it's gonna be good.
I'm
first off,
so glad. I want to preface that right there by saying I am so glad that we're not in the Infinite Forest anymore.
absolutely. Well, no, even last year.
I know.
Year.
I know.
Yeah.
Last year they got us out of it. I know. But
Yeah.
for all the people that are just coming
Haunted
back,
Lost Sectors. Yeah.
exactly, Haunted Lost Sectors. I like those a lot more. So
it's definitely a bit more streamlined. You're not spending like it's like a 20-minute run to get stuff, so it is nice. I will say, everyone who's watching, my setup is a little different. If I look directly at my screen, my eyes are up. It's because my stupid laptop would not unlock for me. So I'm using my tablet. So if you catch my eyes like going the other direction, it's because my camera's right here, and I'm having a hard time like focusing on that when I want to look over here at everyone else.
He is looking at us through a pinpoint. So
it's fun.
It's fun.
We'll go ahead and get started with the TWAB.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Like Legend said, the opening bit is just talking about the ornaments and stuff. It's like Happy TWAB's Day Guardians. We're back with another hefty TWAB, including some weapon and economy changes mentioned last week, so sit tight. We're going to be passing the mic to a few of the team to chat with us today, and they mentioned the ornaments. Destination materials update along. All right, Guardians, time to discuss the changes around destination materials. We're going to hand the mic over to Josh.
Kulinski.
And Josh, yeah, I wasn't going to attempt his last name.
Oh.
So basically, I'm going to paraphrase because if I read word by word, it's going to be forever, and I am terrible at reading. But I have gone over this a couple of times. So basically, all of the destination materials that we've been farming over the last couple of years have kind of been like kind of the backbone of the economy that it comes to Destiny. We are getting rid of all of those.
Getting rid of loosely. You're not going to be able to earn them anymore.
Correct. And honestly, huge. And I'm going to finish through this and we'll give our thoughts on it because I have some thoughts for this. But basically, Dusklight shards, helium fragments, data lattice, and all the stuff that's sitting in your inventory will be going by as of Season 19. You won't be able to collect it after Season 19, starting at Season 19. However, and the basically every destination material we've been getting over the last several years, you're no longer able to be collecting it. It will still be on those planets. It will give you glimmer and reputation instead.
Yes. So basically, look at what they did with the Witch Queen this year. Whenever they gave us the
Mercury, whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever the area is called. Basically, what's up is the materials that you get there. Whenever you go and you decrypt the materials, you'll notice you don't get a material for that location. Instead, you get experience and glimmer. Now, whenever you get the materials on the planets, you do get glimmer, I believe. I don't think you get experience.
No, they're not. They're not going to be working it.
So
they wanted to. The reason why they're doing this is they wanted to simplify the economy. First and foremost, we want to talk about why we decided to make this change. After all these materials have been a part of the DNA of Destiny since the very beginning. The simplest answer is Destiny's been growing quite a bit and becoming a much more complex game than it has all those years ago. So one of the major goals of the economy team of Destiny 2 is to make the game more approachable for new and returning players. One way we can do this is by reducing the currencies that players need to understand to keep track of. This helps reduce the cognitive load that Destiny economy player the places on the player, and also way easier to manage for players trying to learn their systems and all that stuff. Removing these materials will only benefit the player by freeing up more space, making it easier to find the items you're looking for. Additionally, they're going to be implementing an exchange program with Raul all next season. So you are able to get rid of all of your destination materials, and he will now exchange 5,000 glimmer for a stack of 20 destination material. And if you have less than 20, he'll give you 250 per individual material piece. And that only starts in Season 19, and it's going away at the end of Season 19. So clean out your pockets, get rid of everything except for, one of each, because I'm going to keep one of each thing. But you can safely get rid of all your all the stuff in your inventory. However, there are some new items that Master Rule has found interesting in the beginning of Season 19. Players can exchange excess dark fragments and paratazal fragments, and basically the fragments that you get from doing the stuff on the moon from little codex thing, and all those like ghost fragments that you get from used to get from Spider, and the pieces that you would get from Varix on Europa, those can now also be exchanged for glimmer. Just another way of cleaning out your inventory. And finally, The cost of exchanging legendary shards for Glimmer remains unchanged. Enhancement Prisms and Enhancement Shards will see the destination materials cost removed and replaced with just legendary shards. And they have a nice little graph explaining like what all is being exchanged and what all you're expected to pay now. Honestly, huge. This is so nice. It's also, I don't know, I'm pretty excited because also this now frees up what, like 3 or 4 spots in our season pass, and it's just like it's a cache of 50 random materials that we can now have something else in there. Hopefully more bright dust. So the next thing they say is public service announcement. They're going to be we know that exchanging materials has been the easiest way of getting Glimmer, and that concept has not been lost on us. To offset this, we're making an opportunity to breathe new life into parts of Destiny 2 game loop that don't really see much attention. We're talking about public events. Oof. In Season 19, heroic public events will give a huge Glimmer boost, and so will normal ones. So the next time you see a Fallen Mining, for Glimmer on the EDZ, take a moment, hop off your Sparrow, help out your fellow Guardians, and take some of that sweet shimmering Glimmer home for yourself. When completing heroic public events, players can expect to earn anywhere between 10k and 12.5k, which is
huge.
Really cute. It's really awesome. And when completing normal public events, players can expect 3,300 to 4,645 Glimmer. And these are just the raw numbers. This is without any Glimmer boosting mods or bonuses enabled. So that number will spike really well. This actually is very exciting considering the amount of weapons I craft
and how easy public events are.
Oh, for sure. And I can see this too. Like, there's a lot of new players in the game, and some of those beginning quests are run public events, and I feel like this is a good change.
Yeah.
Plus, I mean, how often has it been since people actually run public events?
It's been a while. I used to, but there used to be bounties for it, and
right.
We don't have those. We don't really we don't do location bounties anymore. So I mean,
and unless it says something in like the seasonal thing where it's like, oh, go run this many public events, I don't do it.
Exactly.
So as mentioned earlier, the destination materials will be exchanged at Master Raoul. This means nothing. This means that anything previously that cost destination materials, such as purchasing exotic weapons at the moments of light, will see an update. In these cases, legendary, legacy exotic weapons and destination costs will be removed and replaced with legendary shards. Raid exotics such as Anarchy and Terrabell will see no change to their current costs. So basically, anything that you could buy that required destination material, you're going to be spending legendary shards. That's pretty much it. As well as mods. They're going to be getting rid of some mods.
The ghost mods specifically.
Yeah, the ghost mods. So they're going to be removing the ones that give you destination materials for Crucible, Vanguard, and Gambit. Additionally, Bountiful Harvest mod functions will be changed. Equipping this mod to your ghost will now just increase the Glimmer received when you harvest those resource nodes. The primary source of destination materials has always been resource nodes across the various destinations of Destiny. Those resource nodes are not going anywhere, and still, they are still in your best interest to collect them whenever you see them on your journeys. As players notice during the Witch Queen, we talked about this already. You're going to be getting XP and Glimmer, and it was given you stuff for what's his name, Finch. You were getting XP for Finch.
Yes.
That is not going to be happening for any of our current destinations. They aren't going to be rebalancing or fixing it so that you get reputation in those areas, because there's no point. In fact, Devrim and Failsafe, our longest tenured destination vendors, since the Red War, will be getting a small update in Season 19. The reputation system that we saw players turning in destination materials and getting reputation ranks has been removed. This means you will no longer require ranks to purchase armor from these vendors. Additionally, the Ghost Shell emblems that were once earned via reputation ranks can now just be directly purchased from Devrim or Failsafe for 10 legendary shards apiece. So if you're a collector, you can just go finish that up now. We've also increased the number of daily bounties that Devrim and Failsafe offer from 3 to 4. Whoopee. Though we don't have any repeatable bounties to add to these destinations at this time, it brings us closer to, making sure all the vendors are the same.
Yeah.
Finally, we'll be removing the sale of sunset weapons from both vendors. when the season goes live. This is largely to prevent players from wasting their resources on weapons that cannot be upgraded to the current level cap. All in all, I think that's a great fix and a great change, especially just because, man, my inventory is so full of crap that I want to hold on to and not get rid of or put in my vault. Taking away destination materials, yeah, it's a little like, man, I remember back in Destiny 1 having to go and just sit there and farm spin metal on the Cosmodrome to upgrade random guns I got from like the raids and stuff. And so it will be sad to see like that you getting to obtain and hold on to those, but they're not going anywhere. Like the nodes are still going to be there, and that's cool. I feel like if they took that out, there'd be some pushback.
That would be a huge part of the game that, like, I say huge, but that'd be a part of the game that, like, the people that have been playing since D1
since launch,
would be sad about.
So I think this is honestly a really good change. It's I was watching somebody talk about this. I think it was ASTRO. I was watching talk about this. They have been slowly changing the economy in the game for the last couple of years, and they're taking out stuff that, like the coins, the Vanguard tokens or Crucible tokens, and they've been slowly just simplifying our inventory space to make it easier. You know, just a really quick blank economy, kind of like, here's your 5 materials that you need, and that's it. I do want to see the level cap for Glimmer double or triple, because 2,500 Glimmer is definitely not what it used to be. It goes by really, really quickly.
When you're grinding stuff, it absolutely does. If I can speak on it for a couple minutes, anything that makes the game simpler or easier to understand is a huge win.
For sure.
We saw this with the Enclave whenever we first got weapon crafting, and they had already kind of talked about, at that point in time, simplifying the game and taking away some of the currencies, like Sam just said. Started taking away our Vanguard tokens, our Crucible tokens, all that stuff that we used to have that we would turn in for reputation or whatever. Now you just get reputation just from doing the activities, which is way better. And whenever they introduced the weapon crafting, it was kind of a step backwards, because we had, like, I don't know, almost a dozen new materials that we had to use for crafting certain types of perks on certain types of weapons and stuff like that. And immediately after season 16, they were like, yeah, we can't do this. We gotta simplify this. So season 17 came. They dumbed it down to just the resonant alloy, and then an alloy for raid weapons. I can't remember what that one's called. Just 2. I think that's
3, 'cause there's the harmonic siphon for normal weapons, and then there's the raid siphon. So there's that, and then the material that it takes to craft the weapon. So 3 all day.
That's true.
But instead of the 8 they introduced,
and
it's way better to have 3.
And overall, there's not really, like, it mentions Devrim and Failsafe. They're really kind of pointless, because they've never. Once upon a time, they used to do this vendor refresh thing every couple of seasons, if you will, with Destiny. Back in Destiny 2, back before we had the seasonal model, we just had, like, quarterly DLCs, like expansion packs, if you will, and you can argue which one's better. That's not the debate right now. But they used to do small vendor refreshes, and we haven't had one of those in a very, very since year 1 of Destiny 2. And so all the stuff at Devrim, all the stuff at Failsafe, you can get the armor there for the transmog, which is great if you don't have those, especially, like, I think the ones from Failsafe over on Nessus, I think those are great looking ornaments, honestly. But the weapons, they are all old weapons. They're all year 1 weapons. They're all sunset. They're all they're not even random rolls. None of those weapons were even random rolls. So huge changes across the board. And one thing that's super important to remember is, according to Bungie, and this is something they've said multiple times, the biggest restraint that they have is is the space within the game, right? And hopefully dumbing down on all this stuff is going to make that open it up to where we can do some other things, right?
Right.
Get rid of some of our personal inventory space. I don't know, my controller. Get rid of some of that personal inventory space. Maybe give us another 100 vault slots. That'd be great. I'd be down for that. Sam's exactly right. We could use a higher limit on legendary shards and glimmer and all that stuff. As of right now, the only one of those that can go up infinitely is Bright Dust, and that's kind of funny. Want Bright Dust. Also, I do want to comment. You said earlier that you were hoping that maybe getting rid of some of these materials within the season pass meant more Bright Dust. I doubt it. I kind of doubt it.
I do too. I really want more.
But, I know you do. But yeah, this is good. All of this is good. If you have anything else to say on it?
Not particularly. Just other than the fact that I think this is a great change, and we talk about this all the time. But this really shows future proofing. They are really giving it their all to push the game forward, to simplify it, to make it easier for players that are coming in who don't have to learn all of this stuff. We've been playing with actually a lot of new people recently here in the clan, and they're picking up the game for the first time. They're learning a bunch of stuff, and they're still kind of like getting their feet wet. And this is just making it easier across the board for all of them. So I think this is a great change. For the next bit of the TWAB, they start talking about that they launched their Brazilian social medias. So if you're interested in any of that, they have an Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and that's pretty much it. And now we get to the mid-season weapon tuning, and that's all Legend.
That is all me, and I am so excited. I love weapon tuning. I love all of this. A lot of good stuff in here. I do want to start by saying one of my favorite weapon designs in the entire game is right there, the Braytech Werewolf. I'm so glad it's coming back. I'm going to go ahead and say, while we're on this little spot right here, precision frame auto rifles, great. You'll be seeing in a minute they're getting a buff, but right now the Amit AR2 auto rifle, which you can craft by going and doing just a few simple things at the Enclave, very easy. Only need 2 red frames to make that happen. It's really good. The best roll hypothetically for controller players is dynamic sway tap the trigger. You can build into range with everything else.
That's PvP.
PvP, yes. To be fair, PvP. He's exactly right. I don't
Ambitious
wanna...
Assassin.
Incandescent.
Incandescent all the way, baby.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong.
109 rounds.
I crafted 2 of them, one for PvE, one for PvP. But again, going back to it, for PvP on controller, you can do dynamic sway reduction and tap the trigger, and then build in for range for everything else, because you're going to be getting tons of stability. The Braytech Werewolf, kinetic, also a precision frame, can also roll dynamic sway, tap the trigger, but the difference between that and the other precision frames, it has a much better zoom factor. It's got better intrinsic stats just in general. The only thing that's a little lower is the stability, but you make up for that, but it has higher range. So great weapon, super slept on. It's going to be part of the meta here very shortly, and we're going to get into that right now. So last week, we had a nice chat with the weapons team covering a wide array of questions that also touched on some plans for weapon tuning coming in the mid-season patch next week. Associate designer Mercules is back again to give a more detailed look on the what and the why for the weapon changes coming in 6.2.5. Mercules. Hello, everyone. Mercules here. We have a lot to talk about in the mid-season patch from a weapon standpoint, so let's dive right in. One note before we get started. When we say ease of use, we usually mean one or a combination of the following things: stability, aim assist, recoil direction, body shot TTK, time to kill, or optimal TTK, which is your crit percentage. Requiring a weapon that requires 100% critical shots to achieve optimal TTK is lower ease of use, and a weapon requiring 50% critical shot to get an optimal is higher ease of use. We have seen this question asked a lot and wanted to address it up front so that in the future you can have a better idea of where we are looking at when we say we want to address the ease of use of a certain weapons for balance purposes. So good little clarification there. You can always count on Mercules to do stuff like this. He was a fan of the game before he worked for Bungie, right? He was playing Destiny before he started working on it, and he works specifically on well, as it says, associate designer. So he designs like the weapons and the stuff. He oversees a lot of like PvP stuff. So
yeah,
very
and
cool.
he's somebody who knows what the player needs to hear to understand. Because behind the scenes, we don't see it all the time. There is a lot of jargon and a lot of like phrases for stuff, and they're very good about coming through and be like, hey, by the way, when we say TTK, we mean time to kill value. You know, when we say these things, it means this. So if you hear us casually throw that out, thinking, oh man, this is what it means, here's what you need to know going into this. So now he can speak in normal jargon that everyone else would use, but now you, the player, are now cued in on all of it. Which I think is nice.
Yes. So here we go. Auto rifles. Auto rifles see a strong usage in most PvP activities, around 25%, but that drops to around 13% in end-game PvP, e.g. Trials of Osiris comp. We often hear suggestions that we should decrease the TTK or increase the range of auto rifles, but we have investigated those options and found that in a very minor changes to either, they can quickly become oppressive across PvP sandboxes, i.e. look back at the end of Forsaken, we were stuck in a 600 RPM auto rifle meta, and it was crazy.
That was a good time.
It was a great time. I still have my old school Gnawing Hunger with Zen Moment and Kill Clip. Super good gun. That gun carried me through some trials early on. But
Hard Light.
Hard Light was good. So basically what they're saying is we can very easily get caught right back in that rut, so they don't want to do that. As it stands, several high-impact 360 RPM and precision-framed 450 RPM auto rifles are already capable of outranging hand cannons and at least one adaptive frame can as well, and we do not want them wholeheartedly competing with pulse rifles in the 40-meter-plus ranges. In addition, even with a single bullet reduction in TTK places many auto rifle subfamilies into the best-in-class lethality. As such, we have decided to lean more heavily into increasing their ease of use and making them feel better to shoot within their optimal ranges with a substantial buff to stability. Although the change is only to the high end of the stat curve, the change affects all stat values above 0, with increasing effects as you get into the higher stat values. So, that being said, precision frame auto rifles specifically have languished since the Uriel's Gift meta of early Destiny 2, and because they are inherently so stable, they did not benefit much from the change outlined above. As such, we have slightly brought their critical hit multipliers up to increase the critical hit damage, which, combined with the body shot damage buff from last season, puts them in a much stronger position without directly lowering optimal TTK. In general, increase the effects of the stability stat on recoil reduction by 20% at the high end. Precision frames. Increase the crit damage multiplier from 1.5 to 1.55. Crit damage goes from 30 to 31. Basically, you don't have to get as many. You can get one fewer headshot and one more body shot is basically what that means.
It's a bit more forgiving.
Sorry, it's the wife.
It's all good.
So, great changes. You love to see it. Precision frame auto rifles, always a ton of fun to use. They've languished for a long time. It's been a long time. The Uriel's Gift meta was great, and it's a good thing to good change to see. So, moving on, bows. As mentioned in a previous TWAB, we want to reduce the effectiveness of max speed bow swapping as a strategy, as it is functionally fast enough that it is nearly impossible to counter in high-end level gameplay. The below change is not massive, but should move the total time for a bow swap kill to be closer to other primary weapons' optimal TTK, giving players the better opportunity to fight back against it. Increased bow stow duration varies by subfamily and handling stat. Before, 0 to 100 handling stat. Lightweight frame, 0.4 seconds to 0.2 seconds. Precision frame, 0.433 seconds to 0.2 seconds. After 0 to the 100 handling stat, lightweights are 0.45 seconds to 0.3 seconds. Precision, 0.48 seconds to 0.33 seconds. So it's
delay.
It's a delay.
Short. It's a very very tiny delay.
Yes, it's a minute
but
delay.
Basically, hopefully with this, you won't be getting one shot by Monarch and then immediately with a hand cannon following. I'm very glad they didn't choose to nerf Monarch into the ground, as it is quickly becoming a fan favorite for GMs and other high-level gameplay outside of PvP. Had they chose to straight up just nerf that, it would have just ruined the bow.
Yeah, I think they've been doing a better job lately of making things different apart. Maybe that's just exotics, like your like subclass exotics and stuff.
Yeah, no, we've seen a huge change from Beyond Light and now, where they're specifically targeting PvE to PvP stuff, and I think that's wonderful. I do want to see them revert some changes they made back in the day. I would definitely want to see, my Geomags and my Kamehameha to get back to its former glory, but
one of these days, maybe. Moving
Maybe.
on here. Pulse rifles. This is a big one. I'm a huge pulse rifle guy. Pulse rifles are strong in the current sandbox, both due to reduced dominance of other mid to long range weapons and the availability of multiple easily acquired craftable strong options. That's a mouthful. In addition, a few balance passes back, we buffed their range a moderate amount, but in the current sandbox, we no longer feel that they need help across the board. As such, we have removed the range bonus at the low end while retaining at the high end, to continue rewarding those who spec into range without giving the same advantage to those who do not. We also felt that there was not enough of a difference in the feel of the weapon handling across pulse rifle subfamilies, so we have to rebalance the stat to decrease the effects slightly at the low end and raise them at the high end. Adaptive frame 390 RPM pulse rifles have not been favored since the Bygones era, and we believe this change will be enough to increase their strength relative to other pulse rifles without pushing them too far into the meta territory. That's an important word right there. As for rapid fire frame 540 RPM pulse rifles, Peace of Mind has an out of band zoom stat that allows it to compete at longer ranges than it would be expected for the subfamily. So it will be the first to multiple zoom outliers we will be looking at bringing in line over the next season. In general, rebalance the effect of the handling stat across pulse rifles and the handling stat affects a weapon's ready, stow, and ADS speed. Increased effects of handling by 5% at the high end, mostly affects lightweight and adaptive frame pulse rifles. Reduce the effects of handling by 2% at the low end, mostly affects high impact and rapid fire pulse rifles. Adjust damage fall-off scale based on the range stat. 0 range reduced from 16 meters to 15 meters. 100 range is unchanged. Adaptive frame pulse rifles increase the precision multiplier from 1.6 times to 1.65 times. Crit damage goes from 30.4 to 31.4. This allows the weapon to kill guardians below tier 4 resilience with 6 crits, 2 burst, and 0.60 seconds. Rapid fire frame pulse rifles, Peace of Mind's base zoom reduced from 19 to 18. So, that's not a huge change for like Peace of Mind. Peace of Mind is still going to be great. It's still got some great perks on it.
They're just trying to bring it in line.
Yeah. And here's the thing: I don't think there's a problem with out of band like stats on weapons, so long as you do it the right way. And what does that mean? I mean raid weapons, trials weapons, end game weapons. Those should absolutely be out of band. Those should be weapons that have the weapons that are harder to get, that people have to grind more for. That should be a thing. I'm hoping that they look at that in the future. I definitely think they are. But as it stands right now,
you should be rewarded with better perk pools and better combinations for harder to earn weapons. Because if you go through and you play a ton of raids, there should be like maybe one weapon in that group that's just an outlier for PvP. And then in the same regards for trials, there should be like one good weapon that could then help you carry you into raids. Because most times those paths don't really cross. You're either committing wholeheartedly to one, or you dabble in a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I feel like that would help the community out quite a bit.
Yep.
So.
Moving on, scout rifles. We buffed high impact 150 RPM scout rifles last season. The main goal was to get them up off of the floor by reducing how punishing hitting body shots was. We over-buffed them a bit, going so far as to make the optimal TTK more forgiving against lower resilience as well. This has made them slightly too easy to use for a weapon with functionally unlimited range. The below change to damage will take their optimal TTK back to requiring 3 crits across all resilience values while retaining the change to body shot TTK from the previous bounce pass. High impact scout rifles reduce body shot damage from 42 to 40 and crit damage from 73.5 to 70. So, not a huge deal. Maybe I'm a little offhanded for saying this. but get good. Hit your crits, okay?
You're just not gonna get 2-tapped anymore. And
Seriously,
that's the thing.
Well, you weren't getting, you couldn't 2-tap with them before, but it was like you could 2-crit one body somebody, and that was that was a little crazy. I've been using high impact scout rifles since Polaris Lance. That's my baby. I absolutely love it, and Polaris is gonna see. I'm gonna keep using it. It's my favorite exotic in the game. Every time you hit a crit, you get the round back in the magazine. It's not fourth time or three or triple tap. It's you hit the crit, it goes back to the magazine just like that.
Yeah.
Super slept on weapon. It just means hit your crits. That's all it means. Sidearms interestingly, sidearms have long had substantially less auto aim range compared to damage range. A decision made many moons ago with the removal of the auto aim fall off bonus from Rangefinder. We felt that's a change coming later. We felt that sidearms in general seemed lacking in the 15-meter engagement distances, particularly on M&K. Mouse and keyboard. As such, this change should bring them up to a near parity with other weapons' auto aim to damage fall off ratios. For comparison's sake, sidearms with Rangefinder should feel about the same after this change as they do in the game now, but sidearms without Rangefinder should feel notably better. General. Increased auto aim fall off distance by 30% across the board. That's a good change. I mean, sidearms are still not going to be like super broken, mainly because, as we see here, SMGs are so strong, and shotguns are still, if you have a good lightweight shotgun, you're still fine. So submachine
Brigand's Law is actually really good.
Oh, Brigand's Law is great. It's got Rangefinder on it. So is it a rapid fire or is it
you hold the trigger
full
down,
auto?
it goes.
Yes.
But then it comes with like the right hook.
The melee, yeah.
So you're already up close anyway. Why not finish it off with the melee? So and I think you can get Swashbuckler on it too. Like, it's got a good combination for closing that gap. So you got something else that kind of brings you into the mid range, and then you drop it right in on top of them. You clean it up with this, and with the melee, you're sitting pretty.
Yeah, that's good. I do like that. All right, submachine guns. We want to be very careful touching submachine guns, SMGs, as we believe that most of them are in a good place within their intended ranges. However, in-game and in the playtest, it has become apparent that some SMGs can be used well outside of this distance effectively, and it made it difficult for other weapons to compete. We have addressed a couple of outliers individually, but have also made a change to rein in how strong SMGs are once damage falloff begins. As mentioned above, some outliers in the Precision Frame 600 RPM subfamily of SMGs have out-of-band zoom values. To that point, they can overstep the effective ranges of some auto rifles. These outliers have made it difficult to justify turning precision frames overall. At the same time, their 0.08 second optimal TTK makes them weak against other SMGs, forcing them to rely on high effective range and damage boosting perks in order to compete. Lightweight frame SMGs currently overlap too much with adaptive frames. If you are unaware, both of those are 900 RPM. So we're making a very small change that will help differentiate them. In general, reduce damage fall off end, the distance at which the damage dealt by the weapon at the hipfire reaches its lowest point. Aiming down sights extends its distance by a factor of the zoom, from 24 meters to 23 meters across the board. Precision frame SMGs increased base damage from 16 to 17. Crit damage goes from 22.4 to 23.8. Reduce the zoom of Shayura's Wrath Adept, and friction fire from 16 to 15. Lightweight frame SMGs reduced base damage from 11 to 10.85. Crit damage from 18.2 to 17.9. Okay, I saw a lot of people that were actually quite frustrated with this change. This is specifically to make other SMGs in line with other SMGs, right?
Right.
Shayer has specifically been a great weapon to use because you could basically use it almost like an auto rifle. It was good from close to medium range. And it's a precision frame. You would figure that's okay. The other SMGs, pretty well good from close to medium close range. Basically, within those distances, lightweights and adaptives would shred a precision frame. Now, what this does is allows you to play more effectively with that precision frame at the intended ranges for it, and then the lightweights and the adaptives will, they're just being brought more in line with that. That's really all this is.
Right.
I think I was actually honestly very surprised to see that they gave precision frames a little buff, a damage buff. I think that's huge. I'm a huge fan of Shayra's Wrath. Got almost 1,900 kills on my PvP roll. Like, it's really good. I'm stoked to see that going forward.
I mean, I'm happy none of this touched my submission. I mean, my submissions almost got 10k kills.
Yeah. Well, this is all, it's PvP jargon. I know. It's all, nothing that you PvE guys got to worry about. This one's huge. Fusion rifles. Precision frame fusion rifles have seen an uptick in usage since we buffed them to allow them to kill in 5 bolts, and they are sucking the air out of the room for the other subfamilies due to their extremely high ease of use. The below change should make it slightly harder for players to maintain perfect vertical recoil without additional manual control over the bolt spread.
And it just says ban. Use the other ones.
Reduce the effect of the intrinsic precision frame perk has on recoil direction by 50% for fusion rifles only.
That's just a shot in the face.
Let me go out on a limb and say huge. Okay, huge. This is great, dude. I have a clip from the other day, and I got mapped by a main ingredient at it was god dang near 30 meters in trials the other day. And we're talking about a pinpoint, okay? This guy he's got to thread the needle, and he does it, and he's able to do it because of that right there, because of this, because its recoil direction is so god dang vertical. Okay,
they just K'd 6 this fusion rifle.
I mean, it's 50%. I'm gonna open one up real quick. I'm gonna open one up real quick. So as of right now, the main ingredient's recoil direction as it stands is 88. The weapon's recoil pattern is more predictably vertical. So 50%, that's huge. Oh, that's with the counterbalance mod. So that adds 15. So if I take that off, it's at, 63.
So we're dropping it down. That's huge.
That's huge.
We just K'd 6'd it. It's gone. It's not coming back, Guardians. They're gonna promise us a new Vanguard and never deliver on it. So,
no, this is good. What this means is precision frame fusion rifles. They're still going to be great. Again, as we said with the SMGs, at their intended range, right?
Right.
You're not going to be able to map somebody.
Yeah, they're just trying to bring everybody in line. No drawing outside the lines.
Yeah.
The benevolent creator said, "This is what you can do." That's what you're allowed to do.
This next change, another huge. Glaives have been difficult to counter when they have shield energy, but this change should address that. We will continue to keep an eye on glaive shield damage resistance in the future, especially when they improved hit registration changes coming into effect in Season 19. Reduced glaive shield damage resistance versus players from 75 to 50%. Damage from players supers unchanged at 50. Damage from non-players unchanged at 97.5%. I didn't realize it was that kind for PvE. That's crazy. Honestly, I don't know if this is enough. I know that sounds crazy. Maybe I'm being greedy.
Yeah.
The only thing I've complained about in the last couple of months really has been glaive shields inside of PvP. So I would like to see a little more.
It's very oppressive. Like, there have been a couple of times I've gone into trials by myself or just randomly and just get absolutely destroyed by them. This one team caught me off guard because they had one guy walking in with a glaive shield, and they had people with snap grenades. And if you got close enough, it snapped you. And the guy with the glaive finished you off to keep the energy up. Very good strategy until I pulled out Bastion. And just murdered all of them.
I do like Bastion.
Yeah, and honestly, one of the other guys on my team pulled out Arbalist. So he saw the guy popping around the corner. Shield gone. There are ways around the shield.
100%.
Barriers, anti-barrier mods. It works against glaives. So if you're getting bullied by one of those, lap at an auto rifle, put on anti-barrier, and let them have it. There is always a workaround, and this change will definitely help. But know there are other ways to fight it too.
Yeah, 100%. sniper rifles, we've made several changes trying to make challenging a sniper rifle more feasible over the years. But ultimately, the way flinch works made this tricky to do in a way that didn't make them feel worse to use, particularly in PvE. Under the hood, incoming damage causes a player's aim to deflect by an angle dependent on the weapon type and the damage amount. And then there's the spring force that pulls the aim back down. Little jargon for you for spring nerds out there. This is defined as the dampening ratio and spring force, often called the settle time. We've made the change in Season 19 that has significantly moved the needle in internal playtests. So settle time, basically the time that it takes for your reticle after taking a shot while you're scoped in. The time it takes for it to go from janky crazy down to perfectly centered again. That's settle time. We've reduced the amount of flinch received in PvE to avoid adversely affecting that experience, but increased the settle time substantially. This means you'll continue to flinch away from your target without settling enough to shoot through flinch. Our goal is to discourage continuing to attempt to snipe when you're already under fire. The experience of sniping while not under fire won't change. In general, increase the settle time after receiving flinch by 60%. Reduced received flinch in PvE. That's cool. Now that this has had a sufficient playtest time, we're making similar changes to linear fusion rifles in Season 19. So that's going to be huge. Man, yeah, it's too many times I'm challenging a sniper, and I've already laid into them a lot, and they shoot through the flinch and immediately get the dome. And it feels pretty oppressive, I'm not going to lie. And I've often...
Especially a good sniper.
Huh?
Especially a good sniper in trials or anything. It just... You feel like you almost can't go up against somebody when you see them have a sniper rifle and a loadout as you're loading in.
Because
it's like, dang.
It's the range, right? There's nothing else in the game that can challenge that range, realistically. Scout rifles, maybe. Some like high impact pulse rifles, maybe. But realistically, nah. You know,
right.
Snipers, that's the ultimate long range weapon. So, in order to challenge it, you have to get within that intended range. And even then, sometimes it seems like you're still getting domed. This is a good change. You like to see them actually finally like do something drastic like this, especially since they fixed the way stability works with flinch reduction. That's what they did. They kind of nerfed it a while ago, but then they made stability work the way it does now. They changed that, so they kind of reverted the change a bit, if you will. But this is good. The next one, also good. Trace rifles. Trace rifles are fun. Here we go. Trace rifles. Like auto rifles, trace rifles have not been popular at high levels of play outside of some particularly niche builds. When we investigated ways to improve their performance, we found that a small increase in damage had a dramatic and negative effect in terms of how it felt to play against them. Imagine consistently being killed by an out of bounds with Rampage at 30 meters to 35 meters. Out of bounds is the new SMG for Crucible. And their range is quite respectable on its own. Indeed, what we found was that the lack of stability made it difficult for most trace rifles to be used at the farther points of their intended engagement ranges because it was difficult to sustain precision fire on a moving target. So, we have increased their stability by an even larger amount than we do auto rifles. At the high stability stats, this should make trace rifles feel more like laser beams and less like recoiling Ghostbuster proton packs. General increase the effect the stability stat has on recoil reduction at the low end of the stat by 10%, at the high end stat by 25%. So more like an actual laser beam. This is it's going to be good. Not going to feel so janky. Rocket launchers. Although rocket launchers see passable usage in PvP, they lag far behind other heavy weapons like linear fusion rifles and heavy grenade launchers in effectiveness, due in large part to their inability to get multiple kills per magazine without targets being grouped closely together. With an increase in blast radius, this should make it noticeably easier to net kills on targets that are not right next to the center of the blast. In general, increase blast radius by 0.4 meters across the board. What?
I don't know. That just doesn't sound... I mean, like, it sounds like a cool update. I'm just not looking forward to getting mapped by Galahorn. From the guy who got shot over here when I'm tapping the flag all the way over here. Just the blast range and the Wolfpack rounds and stuff. No, I think it's a good change, and honestly, because and when PvP hits, like, you want something that can get multiple kills. Then your fusion rifle, you're looking at like 4 to 5 rounds apiece. Same with grenade launchers. You want something that's going to secure that kill.
Yeah.
Which is why those weapons are so popular. Rocket launchers are good in a vacuum. Like, you don't have anything else, slap a rocket launcher on and then bang. The next poor sap who comes around the corner is just obliterated. But the guy behind him isn't, and this is going to make sure that guy feels it. It is nice to clear out, like, you're coming around the corner, get a cap a base, and you fire that rocket and it clears off.
Oh yeah,
clears the flag or something. So there are some good use cases for it, and yeah, that isn't a huge change. It probably will feel nicer, and honestly, that buff splashes over into PvE, so it'd be good.
Yep. All right, couple of perk changes here. Gut Shot Straight, the new perk this season. Basically, it's just every time you use the thing, it has an audio cue, and they just removed the audio cue.
Cool.
Yeah, cool. Rangefinder. It's a big one. Rangefinder has long been one of the flat-out strongest perks in the game across multiple archetypes of weapons due to how effective zoom is at improving multiple aspects of the weapon performance, combined with the fact that it has a neutral activator. It does not require getting a kill or dealing damage to activate. The bonus of increasing auto-aim fall-off distance by 20% put this perk into a league of its own in terms of power, as it massively increases the ease of use on certain weapon types well beyond even the increased engagement range provided by the zoom, and it makes it difficult for any other perks to compete without this substantial power creep. As such, we have made the decision to retain the zoom bonus, but remove the auto-aim fall-off bonus. We expect the perk to remain a top choice, but it will be less dominant compared to other options. In general, remove the additional 20% bonus on aim assist fall-off. It is what it is. It's exactly what it says. Basically, if you have a weapon with a rangefinder, it scopes in a lot further. And that scoping in also affected the auto aim, the aim assistance.
Yeah.
It's just not going to do that anymore. It's going to have the same standard aim assistance that it had before rangefinder. So it's, is what it is.
Uh-oh.
Exotics. Moving on to exotic changes. Jade Rabbit has a unique stat package compared to almost all other high-impact scout rifles in the game, and is massively high aim assist and stability. The aim assist puts the weapon's ease of use well above what we find to be acceptable for a weapon with nearly unlimited range and a fast optimal TTK, now that high-impact scout rifles are performing comparatively better than they have been in the past. The time has come to bring Jade more in line with the upper end of other scout rifles in its subfamily, reduced aim assistance by 20%.
Nerf.
Yeah. Again,
into the ground, please.
Again, just hit your shots. Sorry.
Yep. The Wolf is about to turn into a pulse rifle.
I wish. I wish.
It's kind of what's getting. It's getting turned into an auto rifle /
But it's still
shotgun.
a special weapon.
Yeah, I know, it's great.
What they want to do, basically, I'm just going to preface this by saying they want to make it more useful inside of PvE.
Yeah.
When we nerfed Lord of Wolves for PvP, as we mentioned that it was the first part of a larger rework, we were planning for the weapon aimed at making it more competitive in PvE content. Right now, the release of Wolves perk reduced accuracy by a substantial amount, with the intention that it would be useless against small targets, but still land shots against large targets. The increased spread meant that it was difficult to land critical hits even on large targets without having to be dangerously close to them. In content where the extra damage matters, this could often be a lethal experience, so we have reduced the accuracy penalty by 70%. It should still be inaccurate enough that using Release the Wolves in PvP against Guardians will not be as effective, but it will make it much easier to consistently hit critical hits on big targets in PvE without needing to be right next to them. When Release the Wolves is active, reduced ADS accuracy penalty from 10 times to 3 times, removed the 25% universal base damage buff, added a 40% additional PvE damage buff, removed the 50% critical hit multiplier penalty, added full auto as an intrinsic perk. Cool.
Lord of the Wolves.
I mean, it's
still trying to figure itself out.
It could be cool. One thing, if they want to make it more useful in PvE, the easiest thing to do is, I'm
give it incandescent.
No, I honestly just give it Vorpal.
Yeah, just make it the monster what's always been.
Exactly. So here we go. No time to explain.
Nerf.
This gun has been dominant in PvP for much of the last season, topping the trials usage and kill charts. Okay, you know what? I'm not going to waste all this time. Okay.
It's getting nerfed.
It's getting nerfed. Here's the thing. Ever since they buffed pulse rifles and they brought some other weapons down to, you know, make it to where you have to use weapons at the longer end of the spectrum at those intended ranges. No Time saw a buff with other high impact auto or pulse rifles, and it made it super crazy. So, reduced recoil direction stat from 90 to 73. Reduced aim assist stat from 45 to 40. So, aim assist is whatever. Again, as I said multiple times tonight, hit you goddamn shots. Reduced recoil direction stat from 90 to 70. That's the big one. That's the big one. So, I'm going to explain recoil direction. Are we ready? Okay. So whenever you look at recoil direction on a weapon, anything below a numeral of 5. Okay, so you have 55, 65, 75, 85, you know, all of those. Anything below 5 is going to mean the weapon's recoil pattern is going to be more left. Okay? Anything above the 5 is going to be more right, meaning that 5 is vertical. Now, here's how this works. Imagine you have a plane. Oh, it's hard for me to do that. Imagine you have a plane, okay, with 50 being the flat, okay? The more you go up, the tighter that pattern gets, okay? So 5 is still vertical, but you're hitting inside of a vertical pattern. You're hitting within a wide array. So the higher up the bar you go, 95, you know, being 100 being the best, of course, but 95 being pretty good, 85 being pretty good. It just means it's getting tighter and tighter. That means that you're hitting shots within a more narrow pattern. No Time to Explain has been able to shoot at crazy ranges, putting, you know, it's a 3-round burst weapon. It can challenge scout rifle ranges, and it does a heck of a lot of damage, especially if you're hitting your shots. And the recoil direction on the gun made it extremely easy to hit those shots. 73, that is a substantial nerf. Yeah, and realistically, that's all there is to say to it. So, yeah. Sorry, y'all. Just means you're going to have to use it, again, within its intended range. That's all it means.
Which, again, they're just finding identities for everything, which is very nice.
Risk Runner, basically the arc shield for Risk Runner was too oppressive. They reduced the damage resistance versus players by 50, from 50% to 15%.
It needed.
Nerf. That's a huge nerf. That's a huge nerf. Mm-hmm. So, and then we're going to finish up here, future items. In addition to the items mentioned in last week's TWAB, we wanted to make a note of a few more things we are looking at tuning sometime in the next season, not necessarily at launch. Special ammo, linear fusion rifles, Lawrence and Arby, auto aim reduction, and flinch tuning. Yes. Machine gun balancing, make them better heavy option in PvP, reduce the difference between them and other heavy PvE weapons in PvE, make them less punishing to use for ad clearing. Remove damage penalty from DMT at 5 stacks of cranial spike. That's a good change. Like, DMT immediately, basically, just totally, like, didn't get used anymore. But yeah, that's your changes upcoming. So, player support, known issues, stuff like that. Players can sometimes die when transporting the Nightmare Realm in the Duality Dungeon. Duality introductory quest doesn't count master mode completion for the quest objective. The Gear Falcon's Hubrick exotic hunter chest piece has been disabled. Yeah, no duh. The Dawn Course exotic warlock helmet does not appear in collections. The Cry Mutiny heavy GL incorrectly appears in the special grade launcher section of collections. Some players are unable to place relics from the pirate hideouts at the helm, and have to use an alternate character. So, then that's it. There's nothing else really. Festival of Velocity next week. That's your TWAB.
Yeah, this was a mouthful, honestly. Probably to end it off, like the one thing, so it's been like, we hadn't done one of these in like 2 weeks. The biggest thing I've been seeing in like the last 2 weeks is people have been complaining about weapon crafting, and there's two sides of the camp, right? There's the one side of the camp where it's like weapon crafting is pointless because I I don't want to have to collect all these extra weapons and then get rid of the good rolls that I found along the way. And the other side of that is like, well, it's really grindy and they're not guaranteed drops. So if I get them, I get them. And then like that's the divide there. And the people that are sitting comfortably in the middle are like, yeah, I got them and I'm leveling them up, and that's kind of the end of it. Mm-hmm. So here's my answer, and real quick about it. If you happen to get all 5 of the weapons you need to craft it, why don't you craft it? Because then you can put the perks in that you like and enhance them. And you know what it does? You can get rid of the extra rolls that you have in your inventory. Do you have to craft the weapon? Absolutely not. Is it beneficial? Absolutely. It's good. I love crafting weapons. I love my crafted perks. It's just I don't get the people that are upset that crafted guns are in the game, and like now I have to get rid of all these other guns for the crafted ones. You really don't. I have a crafted BXL battle rifle that I use for PvP, and I have one that I randomly got that has really good stats that I use for PvP. I have 2. I could build another. Just don't feel like it. I will eventually.
Yeah.
But there's no point.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. That's everything. It's like, if I get them, I hunt for those because that's something that excites me. You don't have to hunt for them, and you don't have to have it. Like they showed some of the numbers last week when it's like, oh, it gives a +5 to these 2 stats for the enhanced version of it. It's not necessary. Forbearance is a grenade launcher from Vow of the Discipled. The perk combination for the god roll is Ambitious Assassin and Chain Reaction. Do you know what the enhanced versions of those perks do? Here's a hint. It doesn't give you more ammo for Ambitious Assassin, and it doesn't increase the blast radius on Chain Reaction. Ambitious Assassin just gives you faster reload speed. And Enhanced Chain Reaction just lets you carry more ammo. Those are 2, in my opinion, those would be 2 extra perks that are worth crafting. Mm-hmm. Do you have to? Absolutely not. It does not enhance the weapon's performance in any way. It just gives you more stuff. That's the reason to do it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, doesn't matter.
Yeah, so I think that's been one thing that I think I've been kind of frustrated with was the I'm just going to say half-assed launch of weapon crafting. Because Bungie is oftentimes guilty of this. They do something like that, and again, it is half-assed. They don't go all the way. Like, here we are, we have weapon crafting, but again, there's still only a handful of weapons within the game. And what frustrates me more is whenever they decide, oh, you know what? The Syncopation Pulse Rifle, let's make that one craftable.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
None of the other Suros, what was it, Suros, I think, or whatever. None of the other Suros weapons will be craftable, but we'll make that one craftable. Or the Penumbra B rocket launcher, Hawkeye, tracking rocket launcher. We'll make that craftable, but none of the other Hawkeye weapons can be craftable. That makes no sense to me. I don't like that.
No, I don't think it makes any sense either, but I think those weapons all came out at the beginning, and those were weapons that were dropping pretty frequently during the story.
Yeah.
And they wanted to give you the option of taking those, craft those immediately, and then build into them, because the next round of weapons that were dropping were from that season and from that rate, and that's what they wanted you to craft.
I get that, but again, that's still half-assed.
No, absolutely.
That's still a half-assed way to do it. Now, here's the thing. The other thing is, okay, when advertising weapon crafting, the big thing was, yes, you were going to be able to clear your vault, right? That was one of the big arguments. But no, again, because they did this half-assed and they didn't really plan it ahead, it's like, great, I can craft the roll that I want, but let's say there's another, because here's the thing, the Insidious Pulse Rifle. Mm-hmm. I'm going to pull this up real quick for you.
Yeah, pull up yours and then I'll pull up mine.
Here we go. Insidious. So I've got a couple here. I have my crafted one that I use for PvP. Where is it? Is it not in there right now? Where did I put it? Where are you, PvP roll? Here, oh, it is here. Okay, it's my crafted one. Rapid hit rampage, arrowhead break, accurized rounds. Great, awesome. But I also have this one here, demolitionist, adrenaline junkie. Okay, that's huge. That's a great roll. But here's this other one right here, rapid hit, adaptive munitions. Do you have any idea how good adaptive munitions is?
So good.
It's so good. It's so good. Whenever you have anti-barrier pulse rifle, you know, that makes going into GMs, like, you don't necessarily have to have a void pulse rifle. You can use this, right? It's so huge. Like, it's crazy. Here's the thing. I still have to have 3 of these if I want to be able to have all of those, right? I can't delete all of them, right? Like, I still, what the thing is, and I could see potentially crafting one for PvE and one for PvP. That makes sense, I guess. Even then, you know, it'd just be a lot simpler. Just, you know, here it is. And this is kind of what ASTRO was talking about. And they mentioned this actually in last week's TWAB, where they don't really have the data there in the inside of the game to be able to do that.
Yeah, let you have multiple perks and be able to swap in between them.
Part of me kind of calls shenanigans on that, though. And I'll tell you why.
Go ahead.
I'll tell you why. Because once that happened, the other thing that they started doing last season, level up Vanguard, level up Crucible, level up Gambit, right? Level them up enough. Every time I get a Crucible weapon, it's got 3 perks in 3rd and 4th column. So it's there. It's in the UI, right? I don't know. It's frustrating.
I think, and I could be totally off base with this, I think crafting weapons is a way of helping compete with adaptive weapons. So for a long time, adaptive weapons, that was the benchmark. That was what everyone wanted to get for. Why? Increase in stats. Plain and simple, it had better stats and had better mods. That is not obtainable for everybody. In the regards of running a master raid, running GMs, or running trials. Those are the 3 sources of it. Well, crafting weapons enables people who don't get those things to compete with it. But it enables people to compete with that kind of stuff. I think the crafted perks came out a bit too strong, which is why everyone's like hunting for those specifically, because people like to mid-max. Well, now if you find a way of balancing it, like, oh yeah, no, these weapons have 3 perks. I mean, if they allow it a GM for me to take a weapon in, and yes, I can't change my loadout, but if I can swap the perks mid-fight, I will be there every day with a gun that has multiple perks in it. Because that, to me, is better, to have more variety in my weapon loadout than it would be to have like just a flat stat roll. I'm interested to see where they go with this, honestly. Crafting has a lot of potential, and this might have just been like a kind of a quick test to kind of see how they're going to change stuff in the future. With the next season coming out, not having any like big outliers as far as like super rebalancing and all that stuff, I'm wondering if we're going to get some changes to weapon crafting. But that would be my guess.
Yeah.
We're at the like hour and a half mark, so we're gonna
hour and 8 minutes.
It's been a bit of a longer one.
Yeah, it was a good juicy TWAB though.
And catching up after 2 weeks.
Yeah. Sniper, he did leave a comment. He said we all know that most of those nerfs are needed, and I agree.
100%.
Actually, you misspoke there. You said we all know that most of those nerds are needed. Yes, nerds are always needed. Particularly to come read content like this off to you fine people.
I was thinking the strawberry nerds, because those are delicious.
Oh, those are pretty good too. Those are pretty good. But good TWAB. Enjoy it. We'll have some. Hopefully, have another decent one coming up. Maybe we're getting back to some visibility here. Some stuff. Maybe get some Sniper F spell check.
Yeah,
it's okay, buddy. I knew what you meant, but
exactly,
it's funny. But yeah, that's gonna do it this week, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I think my kiddo he texted me. He's like, "Dad, I'm watching." Thanks, bud. Love you. So Yeah. If you don't have anything else, I'm Xcalion.
I'm Batsam.
And Godspeed, my friends.